Good morning, Venture Church. My name, for those of you that don't know, is Josh Susan. I'm the communications pastor here at Venture Church. We're really disappointed that we weren't able to be with you in person this morning, but we're very thankful that through technology and the internet, we are able to be with you digitally. Before we jump into a devotion from David this morning, I have two things that I want to let you know. One is, if you will go ahead and pull out your phone and still check into Venture Church. Right now we're doing a campaign where every 5 check-ins provides a book to a child in need in a third world country. Our check-ins on Facebook and Instagram is a great way that our church is able to come together and really provide a mission and take the gospel to the ends of the world. Our second thing is about our Giving to Christ at Christmas campaign. Last year we did this campaign and it made a huge impact on our ministry and what we were able to do in our missions throughout the year. We were able to build a widow house in Ethiopia and build 3 houses down in Mexico. We're doing that campaign again this year and we're really excited about it. There will be a link in the description below of this video that will take you to the letter explaining what our campaign is going to go to this year. Also, if you're a part of our newsletter, you'll be receiving that letter in your email at some point in time today. It's really easy to give to that campaign. If you will just go to taketherisk.com/give, there's a drop down arrow there, and if you will you can select Giving to Christ at Christmas, and all of the money that you give to that will go to these campaigns. Listen, we really love you guys. I really hope that you're enjoying your Sunday morning and that you're having a good time with your family and just a good relaxing day off. If you have any other questions or you need any other information, you can always go to our website at taketherisk.com. I hope you guys have a great Sunday.
Hey, last week we started a new series called The Beginning, and I really genuinely had it in my plan to do the second week of this series to really talk about interruptions. And we're sitting here in a real interrupted weekend. And so maybe it's God's plan A that we are here talking about interruptions in an interrupted weekend. But I think when I read the Christmas story, the thing that kind of stands out to me is genuinely how much this story of Jesus and Jesus's entrance into the world is a total interruption for life after life after life. I mean, if you just kind of think of it, Jesus interrupts people's lives small ways and big ways. Probably the smallest little interruption is like the shepherds, because they're doing their thing out in the field at night, and then something comes to them that is so spectacular that they have to drop everything they're doing, and they take off to go see Jesus. And that's like a one night interruption or a one day interruption. But then I think of the ways that maybe the story and Jesus' entrance into the world has interrupted, lives in much bigger ways. I think of this guy named Simeon, and he was a priest in the temple and a prophet, and he was literally told that he would not die until he had seen the Messiah. And so, if you think about it, feeling like if that was your life, and God had told you that you would not die until you had seen the Messiah, and you were pretty old at this time, like you feel like your life is on hold until this Messiah comes. And then of course, like the other interruptions that happen are like the wise men. And I think of this story of the wise men in the East. I mean, the story kind of indicates that they probably didn't get there until maybe 18 to 24 months later. And so I'm thinking that somehow, like Jesus' arrival was announced to them in a way, significant enough way that said, hey, we're gonna take a 1.5 or 2-year journey to go figure this thing out. And I mean, from the time they got there to the time they get back home, I mean, I don't know what the announcement had to be, but it was a gigantic interruption to say, this is a big enough announcement for me to spend the next 4 years of my life going to visit this Messiah. And then, of course, the more obvious interruptions that are not just, 4-year interruption, but it's a gigantic life interruption. It's Mary and Joseph, young couple, engaged to be married, and all of a sudden, the angel comes, announces God's plan, and everything changes. Not just for that night, obviously, but not just the next 4 years, but I mean forever. And so I think how disruptive Jesus is to life after life after life after life. And I guess that's the story that kind of is pushing on me. And I really wanted to make an impact on us this season. Because I think we see interruptions in a real negative light. And for me, as I look at these stories, I think each of these people had the potential to see this interruption and as a real negative light. But those who responded well to Jesus saw this interruption and they made the most of it. And because they made the most of it, their lives were dramatically different from that point forward. And so I kind of want to challenge you in how you see interruptions, because honestly, I don't see interruptions very often. I mean, like even this weekend, I'm just a little bummed that we have to do this. And then at the same time, somewhat excited because I think God has His plans. And if I'm going to teach you guys about seeing interruptions in a positive way, I got to figure out how to rally myself and do it in a positive way myself. But how do you see the interruptions in your life? The big ones and the small ones. I mean, like, generally, we kind of feel like anytime we have to go to plan B, it's a sacrifice. Anytime that our plans get thwarted or the way we want our life to go doesn't work out, we feel a certain sense of disappointment. A lot of times we get disillusioned. I mean, a lot of people get to the place where they just feel their whole life is interrupted to the point where they're just so discouraged that they don't really know where to go from there. And I think God in the Christmas story is shouting to us, hey, I know you guys see everything as maybe your plan B, but I guess the thing that I want you to consider is when we see it plan B, maybe it's God's plan A. And I think if you can kind of look at every interruption, the big ones and the small ones, and I know you see them as plan B, but maybe, just maybe, it's actually God's plan A. I mean, you think about those people that I just mentioned. Like, your life's on hold until Jesus comes, but that's your plan B, but that's God's plan A. I mean, the shepherds, that was just a normal night. But here's plan B, but that's God's plan A. And because they engaged God's plan A, they got to see the Messiah. I mean, think about the wise men. I mean, I don't know how the story goes from there. But as history goes, I think it made a dramatic difference, not just in their lives, but in the lives of the people all around them. And then Mary and Joseph, it's God's plan, or it's their plan B. But this is God's plan A. So how do we respond to those things? And I guess my challenge to you is even this weekend, how do you respond to the interruption of something as small as a snowstorm? I mean, I really want to encourage you, like parents, you're watching this and maybe you're at different levels of frustration with the doors being open and closed. And I don't know about your house, but wet clothes inside and outside, all over the place, extra stuff going on around the house and all that goes along with it. And it's easy to kind of get frustrated with that. But maybe this is like God's plan A for this weekend and God's plan A for your week. And to think in terms of, hey, if I can rally in my head and not see all the interruptions in my life as frustration points, but as opportunities that God's leading me into, not to His plan B, but His plan A. So I want to leave you with two things that will probably help you see your plan Bs as God's plan A. And they come out of these stories from the scripture. The first one is really Mary's response. I mean, her life gets totally interrupted, but her response to me is just really, really amazing. Luke chapter 1. Mary responds to this gigantic interruption in her life, and she just says, I am the Lord's servant. May everything you have said about me come true. I mean, that's an amazing statement of trust. And if you'll put your trust in God, then He'll help you move and He'll help you see. Literally, trust will move you from seeing things as plan B into saying, hey, this is God's plan A, and let it happen. And I want to be a part of it. And that's Mary's response. It's just a heart that trusts God. The second thing in this is just this idea of drawing close. You could call it seeking, but I mean, the wise men, when they get confronted with a plan B for their life for the next 4 years, they take gigantic steps to go and draw closer to who this is. They want to seek. They want to figure this out. They want to, even in the confusion, because a lot of times interruptions, they're full of confusion. And in the midst of that, moving from your plan A to God, your plan B to God's plan A, like you just got to draw closer to Him. And as you draw closer to Him, things will start to get more clear. I've been watching this little TV show that's coming out soon, maybe, called The Chosen. And I love the picture of the shepherds that it presents when they're confronted with the news that Messiah has been born. Like they just run. They drop everything, and the scene just shows them running towards the birthplace of Jesus, because they wanted to draw closer. And as they got closer, they got more excited. And as they got there and arrived, they knew at that moment that all the mystique or all the confusion of your plan B, like all of that falls away the closer you get to Jesus. And now you're glad you're there. Because someday in the midst of these interruptions, there's going to be a moment of clarity where you say, oh, I'm glad this was God's plan A, and I'm glad I'm here. But to be there, you've got to put your trust in the confusing times. You got to trust God. And the second thing is you got to run towards Him. You got to draw closer to Him. Because part of our job here, part of what we want to do is to help you draw closer and closer to Jesus so that your life gets in more focus. And that moment in time when you realize, hey, this is not a plan B, this is God's plan A, like you're there, that you show up and you get to experience for yourself. Not what somebody tells you, but you get to experience for yourself a Jesus who loves you, who was born for you and came to die for your salvation. So hope you're enjoying this weekend. I hope you can challenge yourself and your family to really see this interruption not as just a plan B, but something God had in mind all along. Y'all have a great weekend.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. As we continue in Advent this week, the conversation is about peace and how that God gives us peace in the midst of waiting. So as we go throughout our day, as we go throughout our week, I hope that you find moments in your life where God will give you opportunity to have peace. So I'll lead with this blessing that is found in 2 Thessalonians 3:16. Now may the Lord of peace Himself give you peace at all times and in every way. As you go throughout your day today, I want you to take a couple moments and just pray with your family that God will give you peace throughout the week. Hope you have a great week.